Hello, Hockey World. It is Friday, we'll call it, December 1st, 2023.
I'm Michael Agello.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. And we are sorry for being late today. That was my fault. The computer froze up on me. And, but we're good now. We're going to do a couple little quick things. And then I thought we'd take some questions today, Mike. I thought this would be a good day to take some questions. It's just Mike and I. So we'll take some questions out of the chat.
Yeah, because Russ can't answer the questions.
Russ is bad at questions. But so last night we had a goalie goal, Mike.
Yeah, Tristan Jarry. It wasn't the typical, like they're up by 2 and it was they were only up by 1 and it was a clear and it was it was a shot from, I would say that's one of the better goalie goals that I've seen. It was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, they had so you see on the Reddit the comparison between Ullmark's goal and Tristan Jarry's goal. Pretty funny, like the speed of Ullmark's shot was 53 and Jarry's was 55.
Well, I'm not going to go about velocity and all that stuff, but it was good.
Ullmark got it 15 feet in the air. Tristan Jarry got it 16 feet in the air. So yeah, I mean, you're talking about distance-wise. Jarry's shot was 150 feet in the air. That's pretty impressive. I mean, that's like that is more of a goal, than ones we've seen before.
This is how old I am now. I don't know if this was the first one, but I remember the one that Billy Smith scored. It was against Colorado, and he had made a save, and the puck came back to the point. And I think Rob Ramage was the defenseman, and it was either a shot and a save, and the puck went out, or it went past Ramage after the save and it went into the net. So that was the first goalie goal I remember, but it wasn't a shot. It was the one I think was the first shot was Hextall.
Well, I was at the first shot. I was at the first goalie goal game. And it's a funny story because I was there with our buddy Dan Wallace, and I was at the time trying to make some extra money in college, and I was teaching piano lessons. So I was giving this kid piano lessons, and he had to push he was late getting there. So I was late getting to the game. And it was the kind of thing where if I had a cell phone, I may have called him and said, I'm just not going to make it because I didn't get there until the midway through the second period. But because it was before the days of cell phone, if I didn't show up, it was just like, where is he? He's dead. So so I showed up and glad I did. It's like crazy that I showed up. I only saw the last half of that game, but I saw the Hextall goal, and the first person to pick up the puck out of the net, Pelle Eklund. Pelle Eklund, he skates down, picks up the puck out of the net, and brings it back to Hexy. But yeah, that was one of the loudest things I've ever seen. I mean, as far as the stadium going crazy, because we all knew Hextall would do it eventually. He had a couple chances at it. He had missed the net just barely a couple times, and he was the first goalie to shoot like that. So
now if it was Chris Pronger, he would have never gotten the puck.
Right. Right. But yeah, so get some questions ready in the chat room if you guys don't have any questions here. Did you see end of the Calgary game last night at all?
I did not see. I did not. The two games that I watched primarily were Buffalo, St. Louis, and Toronto, Seattle. And I'll talk about Buffalo, St. Louis for a second because I just have to say it's like Buffalo is one of the oddest teams this year because they've played 23 games. They've had 1 2-game winning streak. They've had 1 3-game losing streak. And basically it's win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. It's they had their best game of the year against the Rangers on Monday. And then they put up an absolute stinker against the Blues yesterday, where the Blues went up 3-0. The Sabres came back and tied it 3-3. And then they gave it right back to the Blues. I mean, if Don Granato had a full head of hair, he wouldn't have it after watching this team because it's just they're absolutely. I mean, they're young. I get it. They're the youngest team in the league, but at a certain point, you need those young players to learn how to play consistently, learn how to play defensively. And right now, offense is not the problem. Tage Thompson's out. They scored 4 goals. They just can't keep it out of their net.
Yeah, very So is there a Zadorov trade? Are we having that now?
Yeah. So the Zadorov, I was going to bring this up, and people were making.
I was running back in the doctor's here, so I missed that one.
Yeah, the Zadorov trade was made possible by the Beauvillier trade to Chicago, because, and I said to Russ when I heard that trade that, as usual, Corey Perry F's Toronto, because Corey Perry and him having his contract terminated open up the cap space to allow Vancouver to trade Beauvillier to Chicago, and that allowed Vancouver to open up the cap space to trade for Zadorov, because apparently the big thing with Calgary was they didn't want to retain any salary. Now, Luke Fox from Sportsnet said the Leafs had an offer. I didn't see what the offer was. I don't think anybody is going to reveal what the exact offer was, but the rumor is out there that the offer was better than a third and a fifth. But that Calgary would have had to retain salary. And get used to this, act, because between now and the deadline, retaining salary is going to be king. If you got open cap space, you're going to pay less for these players because none of these teams want to retain.
There's no question about it, and I mean, really, teams with cap space have a huge amount of power. Like they just do. They have a huge amount of power to make things happen right now, and they can take on cap space. So I think we'll see some of that too. I think we'll see some taking on of cap space, definitely, at the deadline and even before.
Well, the key thing here was, and it's all a question of timing, because right now, the Leafs don't know what the status of Klingberg is. Right. So they couldn't make that deal until they know Klingberg is either coming back or out for the year. If he's coming back, then they really have no cap space. Right. He's on LTIR until he comes back. If he's out for the year, if he has his hip surgery, then all of a sudden they have cap space open up, and then they could. Now they may have been asking Calgary, could you wait a couple days? And if Vancouver offered something and said take it or leave it, then Conroy has to do the deal. So, I don't think GSM. I don't think that's it. From everything that I've heard, Treliving left Calgary on good terms. So I don't think they're going to be vengeful when it comes to that. Now, what I'll tell you one thing also, Zadorov's not signing in Vancouver long-term. That's a pure rental. And I would be stunned if Zadorov does not end up in Toronto next year, but that's next year. They need help now.
Right. They need help now. You're right. And I mean, they really, and now I wrote today in my maybe this has something to do with Zadorov because I didn't know the Zadorov trade was happening. But that the Sean Walker, that the Maple Leafs have been scouting Sean Walker, and that is one of the guys that they're targeting. I think that'd be a hell of a pickup for Toronto. I think that'd be a great pickup. Yeah,
but okay, here's the thing. Two things. Sean Walker makes $2.65 million.
Yeah.
Now again, Philadelphia would have to retain. I don't know how many slots because you can only retain salary on 3 guys. They're already retaining salary on Kevin Hayes. So I don't know how many more slots they have to retain. I'll look that up as we're talking here. But the other problem is, in spite of the fact that even Russ said that he's having a good year, Sean Walker's a bottom pairing defenseman. He is not a top 4. He's never been a top 4. Now he's been playing that in Philadelphia, so his value is elevated. But he's not a top 4 defenseman. He's a bottom pairing guy. And right now, could the Leafs use a bottom pairing guy? Sure. Are they going to give up big assets for him? No. And if Russ were here, he'd say, well, the coach doesn't want to trade Sean Walker. So if they don't want to, if Torts doesn't want to trade Sean Walker, I
really don't think it matters. Honestly, I'm talking to people at the Flyers today. I don't think that matters at all. I don't think that they're sitting around the Tortorella blocking trades here or anything like that. I don't see that happening right now.
Yeah, no, I'm looking it up right now. So the retaining salary on Hayes, the retaining salary, they bought out D'Angelo, so that doesn't matter. Yeah, they're only retaining on 1, so they can retain salary on Walker. If the cost is a 4th round pick, then Toronto would do it right now. I think, but they'd have to retain 50%, which is $1.3 million, which is not a lot, and it's only for a year. Yeah, I think Toronto would do that. He's a right-hand shot. He's he's an aggressive defenseman. That's what I think they're looking for. They're looking for guys with size and a little bit of snarl. That's why I think they wanted Zadorov. So I could see that happening, but I just don't think they're not going to pay a ton for him. Is what And if Philadelphia is looking for a ton for him, then he's 29 years old. Yeah,
I mean, they aren't, but I mean, it doesn't make sense for them to probably do less than the second round pick.
Yeah. There's no way Toronto's trading that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there is either. But I think when you got a guy who's playing top minutes right now and looks pretty solid for you, I don't think that you're going to necessarily move him out. Unless you can't sign him, unless you can't sign him, unless there's a problem with that.
Well, and that was the thing. I was talking with a Toronto-based reporter, and he was basically saying, and nobody would say this publicly, but the Leafs are in a position right now where they need about 3 defensemen to be a Stanley Cup contender, and you're not going to get 3 defensemen in before the trade deadline, via trade or free agency or whatever. So why would you expend your assets and you've traded a lot of assets over the last year or two? Play the guys you play, get healthy, and see where you're going to go. But honestly, I don't see them, like, if they can trade for somebody that they can sign long-term, like Flamester just said about Tanev. I mean, obviously, if they trade for Tanev, they would want to talk to his agent first and see if they could sign him long-term. If they have to give up a first-round pick to get Tanev and they can't sign him, then you don't do the deal.
Yeah, I don't know that any defenseman, save maybe Hannafin, is getting you that. It's going to get you a first round pick. I think Hannafin's the only defenseman out there that's going to get a first round pick. And
right
now that changes if there are certain circumstances that change. If a certain amount of money is held back or whatever, there's other things that can make picks higher. But just based on actual value, I think Hannafin's the only one who's legitimately a first round pick. And and he's even iffy. It's even iffy with the first round pick. Where the first round pick is. If it's Boston's first round pick and they're going to finish like top 3 in the league, it's not the greatest. And that's a different story. Than if it's another first round pick. So I think that at the end of the day, I know the Bruins really want Hannafin. I know the Leafs wanted they wanted Zadorov. They definitely have Scott and Walker. I don't know the exact asking prices though. So like you said,
they wanted Zadorov, and I think they're going to end up getting Zadorov. So I think that limited the price that they were willing to pay for him, and they wanted Calgary to retain salary. So the deal made the most sense for Calgary because they didn't have to retain anything. Now it gives them some flexibility. And, I mean, I don't know if there's more of a negative repercussion within the market to trade him to Vancouver as opposed to Toronto. That's sort of the same thing. Vancouver's in your division and you hate them because they're in your division, and Toronto is Toronto, so you hate them because it's Toronto. So, right. So I think the ramifications are different then. Now, somebody in the chat was saying David Savard as a potential guy. Well, the David Savard's on injured reserve. So if he's healthy, sure, but he's got another year at $3.5 million. He's got to be healthy. If he's healthy, then I think there's going to be people out there that are going to be interested. But I don't see, I mean, sure. I mean, they could retain $1.7 million, but if you can't get in the lineup, that doesn't help anybody. So
exactly, no, I don't think that's going to happen. No, the interesting name came up today when I was talking to people about trades, and that was the name of Brock Nelson. Like Brock Nelson's name is something out there. He is an interesting one. This is something that we haven't seen from the Islanders, and yet in terms of this kind of like rebuilding type of a trade where they would be moving a guy out.
Well, it would be funny that the guy that the Islanders would trade is the guy who scores goals.
Yeah, he's their best player. I mean,
that'd just be hilarious. Okay, let me see, guys. Well, our problem is offense. So what do? We trade the guy who's got 10 goals right now.
Yeah, I mean, but when you look at, I was talking to a couple Islanders fans, and a couple friends of mine Islanders, and they'll tell you that Brock Nelson, if you go the last 5 years, he's their best player. Like he's been their best, most consistent player over that period of time. Save Sorokin, like save a goalie, but Brock Nelson has been there, and his cap hit is high. There's no question about it.
It's 6. I mean, but and that's the thing. I think it's more the fact that he's 32 years old. He's got another year left in his contract. He had a really good year last year. He's still a good player. So you might be able to move him and get something back from a team that is looking for offense. But I mean, unless you're getting younger offense, or unless you're opening up cap space to make another move, and that's the thing. It's like we see the domino effect here. We just saw it with the deal with Vancouver. They moved out a $4 million salary to bring in a defenseman who was making $4 million. That's the only way that these deals are being made, is move money out, move money back. Only Chicago, who's got cap space, and Anaheim and maybe Buffalo are the teams that got money to move around with.
Yeah. And I think Buffalo's going to be the one that's going to be most interesting to watch, because I think they're going to be the most aggressive, actually, as it gets down to it.
I mean, that's the weird thing here, because, okay, it's funny because there are reports out there that the Sabres are looking for a forward. And, okay, Tage Thompson's coming back at the end of the month after the hand injury, and Jack Quinn is coming back in January. But here's the problem. They've got tons of forwards. Now, do they want a forward that helps them now and they're willing to give up somebody who's a future guy? I mean, they have got an absolute shit ton of forward prospects, including Yuri Kulik, Isaac Rozan, Savoy, Benson. They had 6 first-round picks over the last 3 years. So they've got a lot of prospects up front, and some other ones that are deeper, like longer range prospects. So if they're willing to trade one of those guys for a guy with immediate help, then okay. And now the funny thing is, one of the guys that we haven't talked about in terms of a scorer that teams might be interested in, that we know was on the trade market in the summer, was Victor Olofsson.
Right.
He scored 28 goals last year. They tried to give him away, and then Quinn got hurt, and then it's like, okay, we better make sure that we're okay and we have enough depth. But once Quinn is back, you could see him on the market. And, for teams that are looking for a scorer, he's making less than $5 million. He scored 28 goals last year. The problem is he's a defensive liability. He's not a great defensive player.
Yeah. No, but he is that elusive, teams looking for top 6 forward. He's one of those, and that's something that we hear all the time. What I wanted to ask about the Calgary-Dallas game last night. So, I'm not a big fan of the way the NHL does any of their highlight, instant replay reviews. Like I'm really against it in general. I think it's terrible that their team, if they get it wrong, is punished with another penalty, because I think that's just because that could put a team really under the gun, and in a bad situation. But last night we saw the opposite end of it, which is that the NHL has just given teams way too long to decide whether they want to get a review or not. Mm-hmm. And that's what we saw last night. There was a review. Calgary scores tie it, and for a very long time, Dallas is sitting there and they're waiting. And the refs sitting there waiting. Is Dallas going to review it? Is Dallas going to review it? And instead of just getting out and dropping the puck, and getting everybody to the circle, he waited way too long. And Dallas had a good 4 or 5 looks at it before they reviewed it.
Well, I mean, I do agree that there should be a time limit. And the funny thing was what happened in the Florida-Toronto game on Tuesday. Now, again, I admitted yesterday I turned that game off once Rodriguez had scored the goal, because the announcers were saying the game is over with. And, 99.9 times out of 100, that means the game is over with. Yeah. Joseph Wall, the goalie, Sheldon Keefe, the coach, were in the Leafs locker room when apparently the video review was requested, and I guess they went in the locker room to get a better look at the replay, because all they were looking at was on the iPad. So, but it was a long time. There was, I don't know if there's, is it 60 seconds? Is it, 30 seconds? There should be.
I don't think there's a thing. I don't think there's an actual determination on it. Like I don't believe that there is a time limit on it.
Well,
what's kind of crazy.
Well, I mean, okay. Are they doing this to avoid 1999 all over again and avoid Brett Hull no goal? I mean, maybe.
Obviously, you want to get it right? You want to get it right, but why can't we have in the last 5 minutes of a game, like automatic reviews on controversial things? Like, why can't we do what the NFL does? Which makes sense to me. Like, if something that's potentially controversial, why can't we do that? I don't see the benefit in the charade we're playing here, because giving teams a long time, and if they get it wrong and it's a close play, they could potentially be down 2 goals instead of 1 goal. If because they take the penalties. But I have a hard time with it. I don't know. I think it's kind of ridiculous.
I mean, I get that, and I think it is a little onerous to, you think this is a goal, and then all of a sudden you're giving a power play. I mean, you might not ask for the video review for fear of giving that team a power play.
Right. No, I think I hate that. I mean, because if it's close, we should get it right. Like, why aren't we getting it right? Like, why aren't we sitting there? I mean, the last 5 minutes of a game, I think, is when this should matter more than anything else. I'm fine with the other stuff the rest of the time, but in a situation like last night, it really mattered a lot. And then instead of, the referee knows that if the team gets it wrong on the call back, that they're going to get a penalty. So he gave them so much time. It's just, I like football. Football, obviously, with football, the guy can run a play. They run a play, and you have that limited time between plays before the next plays run. To throw your flag on the field or whatever.
Yeah, but okay, there's not many things I want to emulate the NFL on right now, because honestly, I mean, and this from that Bills Philadelphia game, their officiating was borderline incompetent when, Josh Allen gets horse collared, and 2 pass interference calls that were basically akin to a mugging on Broad Street. It's like, I mean, so I wouldn't want to emulate the NFL on anything. Their video review, it's like sometimes, when you're looking at things shutter by shutter, or frame by frame, it's not reality. It's like there are fumbles that are called when, they say make a football move. Well, what is a football move? They don't define that. So, I mean, at least in the NHL now, with breaking the plane on the blue line, we have a much more defined rule when it comes to offsides on goals. So, I mean, can the system be better? Sure. I didn't see it live. I'll probably watch it again here after, but I saw the commentary on it, and it looks like Dallas, it looks like Calgary got the advantage and Dallas got screwed, but drop the puck.
They did. I mean, they did. They just dropped the puck. I mean, now there is a call up. So Nemec has been called up by the Devils, which is a big deal. Obviously, this is their big draft pick, getting a shot in the NHL. Again. And what are your thoughts on this kid? Do you think he's ready? You think it's the right time to do this?
Well, I mean, he was drafted 2nd overall.
Yeah.
He had a decent season his first year with Utica. He played well at the World Juniors for Slovakia. I'm just looking at his stats right now. He's got 8 points in 13 games. Now, I think he's being called up because Brendan Smith was suspended. So,
correct. I think there's injury or something. There is a reason he's being called up.
I don't see it being a bad thing to give him a little taste. I mean, if he, here's a look at the NHL. There's still a lot of time with him. I mean, he could go to the world. He's probably going to go to the World Juniors in Sweden. So
he should be one of the best players in the World Juniors in Sweden if he goes.
Right. Oh no.
How old is he now? Is he 20? I mean,
he's 19. He doesn't turn 20. Yeah, so he's eligible for the World Juniors. So he could go, and if he's playing for Utica at that point, just like the Sabres will send Kulich to play for the Czech Republic, and Savoy's junior right now. And, there are players for the Leafs like Fraser Minton who might go, or Eastern Cowan, their 1st round pick. But I'm just saying, like, Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad situation. But if he's in the NHL like Zach Benson, they might not send him. So, I mean, that'd be interesting.
Hamilton was placed on IR, so that's why this is happening.
Now,
Hamilton.
Yeah, no, GSM brings up something we have to talk about before we end the show here, which is the Canadians signing Samuel Montembeault to a 3-year deal at $3.15 million. Now, I talked about this with Russ. And, okay, I'm not saying that Simon Montembeault is a bad goaltender. I'm not. He's young. He's 27. He's not really young, but he's young enough.
Yeah.
He's having, last year he played 40 games out of necessity. This year he split time with Jake Allen, putting up okay stats. But this is the thing. Russ said the thing I thought of. He said, here's a stopgap goalie. Okay. Right. So how many years are you going to have a stopgap goalie in Montreal? Jake Allen was your stopgap goalie. You signed him for 2 years. You did that because Carey Price was out for. So now you've signed a 27-year-old goaltender for 3 years as a stopgap goalie. So you don't have a number one. Maybe they don't think Caden Primo is going to be your number one. So how about Kent Hughes, and how about Jeff Gordon? Go out there and get yourself a number one goalie, because this is not it. No,
it's definitely not it. And there are goalies to be had out there, and there are a couple questions in the chat room about goalies. And let's get some questions in the chat room. So we have this one here. So BJ asks, should Buffalo make a deal for a starting goalie and pray pray to get into the playoffs, or just stay the course and hope UPL gets consistent?
Well, okay, BJ, because I covered the Sabres for the hockey news, I'll take this one on.
Yeah, please do.
The Sabres believe Devin Levi is the goalie of the future. So the justification for them not going out this summer and trading for Hellebuck or signing a veteran goaltender is because they didn't want to block the way of Devin Levi. Now, did I think that was the right move? No. I thought they needed to pair Levi with a veteran goalie. The guy I suggested all summer was Cam Talbot. And how's he doing in LA right now, folks? He's doing pretty good. Now, LA is a really good defensive team, but Cam Talbot is a guy who is a pretty good goaltender when he's healthy. Now, okay, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen up and down all year last year. You didn't know what you're going to get. Comrie injured 3 times, or 2 or 3 times last year. There was not a lot of belief there, but they believed that 3-headed monster was going to give them the goaltending that could make the playoffs. Now, December the 1st, Devin Levi is in Rochester. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has played consistently enough to be the number one, and Eric Comrie is the backup. I don't blame Luukkonen for giving up 6 goals on 20 shots yesterday, but Buffalo can't play defense still. And if they can't play defense, it doesn't matter who your goaltender is. Now, they got to be better defensively. Yeah. But, can a goaltender that they trade for, like I saw somebody in the chat say Markstrom, they don't want to spend $6 million on a goalie. That's the whole point. The highest paid goalie right now is their third stringer, which was Comrie. He's making $1.8 million. The other guys are making less than $1 million.
Especially when you have 2 young goalies, either of them could still be the guy. It's not saying that UPL is not going to be the guy as well. I mean, he still has potential to. He's still young in terms of goalies go.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing here is, like I said, they don't want to block the way for their young goalies, but they also don't want to pay a goaltender because they've paid Cousins, they've paid Samuelson, they've paid Power, they've paid Dahlin, they've paid Thompson. They locked up their top 3 defensemen and their top 2 centers, and they wanted the 2 to 3 years of having cheap goaltending. Now, I think they needed a number one goaltender, or at least a veteran guy, to get in the playoffs. And some people believe this was playoffs or bust this year. Right now, 21, 22 games into the season, it's bust.
It is.
It's not playoffs because I mean, now can they improve? Sure, but I don't have a lot of confidence right now with them being up and down like they are that they're going to make the playoffs.
No, me neither. Me neither. I'm with you. Randy has a question for us here. He says, "Could the Isles make a pitcher Hannafin?" Sure. Like there's no question that they could. I mean, Lou likes him. He's a U.S. player. Lou's into that. Always looking for U.S. defensemen. He likes U.S. defensemen. It could absolutely happen. I don't think it should. I don't think they should make that move.
Yeah, Flames they can't score goals. So, let's trade for a defenseman.
Yeah, that's the way we talked about it yesterday. The Islanders have been really in these games. Like talked to the crazy stat yesterday that they've been trailing less than any other team in the league, which shows that they're in. So, Luke could be like, okay, we're just one goal, move one goal one way, one goal the other way. Maybe we got something there. I would really have a tough time imagining it, but I don't put anything past Lamoriello. Like he's got his own mission, as you know, Mike, very well, and he's got his own vision. He's not reading things. He's not listening to things. I mean, he listens to us in this show. He actually does listen to this show. And
he doesn't care what the hell I say. He probably thinks
made that plenty clear.
Yeah, he probably thinks I'm an idiot, but that's he can. Hey, he's won Stanley Cups and I haven't. But he
doesn't think you're an idiot. He likes people who have opinions. So
yeah,
that's what
I'm just saying this. It's like I look at that team and you've got a top 3 goalie in the league in Sorokin, a goaltender that half the teams in the league would die for. If
right.
You've got a pretty decent defense. You've got to get 2 scoring forwards, and you've got a chance to get through the East. But that comes at the cost of some of your prospects or moving out other players, and maybe he doesn't want to do that. So I don't know.
Okay. So Barticus asks about DJ Smith's shelf life. Signs up 15 games in December. Does DJ get the month, or is there a loss threshold where something's got to give? In your opinion? In my opinion, I think they're past that. I think that they're waiting for the right time to make a change. I think at this point, I think you're looking at a situation where they're trying to find the guy that they can go to, because you don't want to make a change until you have the guy ready to go. It's not like a team that should go to an interim guy. You know what I mean? It's not like that kind of situation.
Well, this is the thing, and part of the ownership group with Ann Lauer is the owners of the Oshawa Generals. They're a minority owner, and DJ Smith won a Memorial Cup for those owners.
He's a legend. He's a legend for the Oshawa Generals. I mean,
yeah. So I think that he has got a little more runway than people think. I honestly think he's going to get the season, and if after the season, they're at right now. Okay, they have 16 points. The second wild card is 25 points. They may be out of it already. They lost Pinto. Norris was out for a while. Shabbat was out for 6 weeks. Their goaltending, Korpisalo has been okay. Forsberg is Forsberg, which means he stinks. So I don't know if they can catch up. So I'm thinking, maybe they ride it out with Smith. Unless they have somebody, unless like Patrick Waugh is coming in or somebody like that, I don't know if they're firing him in season.
I truly cannot imagine Patrick Waugh in that city. I can't. No. See ya. No. That is good. That is crazy. All right, we got another one here. Another question. Here it is. What is the market on Lindholm if he's traded? Market's good on Lindholm. He's got a lot of value. He's probably the most valuable.
He's the top center in free agency.
Yeah, maybe the top player in free agency, honestly.
Well, okay, I'll say this. He would be the second player if the Leafs were willing to trade Nylander, but I don't think they are. So I think Lindholm, him being a center, his salary is $4.85, which is really manageable. If they retain 50%, I think they get a top prospect and a first round pick from most. And that's pretty, top prospect, maybe a young player and a first round pick. The Hull smash, the whole kit and caboodle. Now, anything you want.
Yeah. I think you're about right on that. the question is, who's going to really want him? Where is he going to go? Like that is to me the bigger thought is, what team out there is willing to go. I mean, Boston's a good bet because they've got
Boston would want to sign him long term.
They want to sign him long term, and they need somebody like him long term. So
yeah, I could see a Jake DeBrusk, John Beecher, and a number one type of deal.
Interesting. I mean, I can see the Sabres getting in on him big time too. Like I can see the Sabres. I mean, they're a team with cap space and a team that needs a change.
Yeah, but the problem is I don't think they would. I don't think they would want to sign him long term. I think because right now they have Cousins and they have Thompson signed long term, and Casey Middlestat is their leading scorer, and I think they want to sign Casey Middlestat. So I don't know where the room is there to sign Lindholm. I think there are teams out there right now that would want to trade for Lindholm that are cup contenders, and him having a salary that's manageable, like Colorado and Boston, leads me to believe that those would be like the teams that would be interested.
More likely, I would agree with you on that one.
Go to Terry 3G's question because I want to answer that one.
Okay, so Terry 3G's question. When the Leafs finally fall, which is in autumn, does Shanahan finally get the axe before current head coach and GM?
No. Sorry, Terry. I mean, okay, first of all, like I said earlier, I don't think the Leafs are close. I think they'll make the playoffs. They're a flawed roster right now with paying too much to 4 forwards. Their defense is average when they're healthy and below average when they're not. I love Joseph Woll as a future goaltender, and he might be able to stand on his head and win a round this year. But I don't think they're winning a Stanley Cup. I don't think they're close to winning a Stanley Cup. But Shanahan is safe. I think he's got another 2 or 3 years on his contract. And remember, to this ownership group, he dug them out of the biggest hole in the world. They were a laughingstock joke, and he listened to some guy who said they need to tank. I don't know who he was listening to, but he listened to some guy who said they needed to tank. And in the span of 2 years, they got Marner and Matthews, and now they're the most profitable franchise in the NHL, the most valuable franchise in the NHL. So Shanahan's not going anywhere unless he wants to. They just hired. Sorry,
go ahead. I said it's hard to blame a president. Like how much do you put on the president of a team? Like it's always difficult to say how much he really, how much responsibility he's got to handle. I mean, the GM is his call. So if the GM is wrong, then maybe. But that to me, he's the GM call more than the coach's call. So
yeah, Jeffrey, Lou dug them out. Who hired Lou? His name was Brendan Shanahan. So yeah, okay. So but no, and they just hired Brad Treliving. So he's a first-year GM, and he inherited, a sort of a somewhat of a mess when it came to Kyle Dubas. I mean, the first guy to go might be Sheldon Keefe, but they have to have a replacement for him. Russ, I know that I talked to Russ and he seems to think, if they fired Sheldon Keefe in season, which I don't think they're going to do because I think they're going to make the playoffs, the guy who's his replacement is on the bench right now, and that's Guy Boucher. But I don't think Guy Boucher is the guy that they would hire as a long-term replacement for Sheldon Keefe. It might be the guy who's the coach of the Marlies right now, John Gruden. He's well-regarded. But no, I mean, and I think of the three, the one that's most vulnerable is Keefe, but I don't think any of them are getting fired this year.
Well, I think if they were to fall apart, if they were not to make the playoffs, Keith's gone. He's gone if they don't make the playoffs. I think that's a safe bet. Like because basically someone has to pay the price if they miss the playoffs. There has to be a sacrificial lamb if they don't make the playoffs. The only way to turn, I think, would be to turn to Keith. In that situation, I don't think he would survive that. I just don't see how I don't see how the Leafs couldn't.
If they miss the playoffs, and it's not due to like a traumatic injury, like somebody of the top group, Matthews, Marner, Tavares getting injured. Right. If they're all healthy and they just miss the playoffs, then yeah, Keefe is probably good. If they make the playoffs, with all the challenges that they've had so far this year with like 3 of their defensemen out like last year, I think he's safe. If he loses in the first round, I think he's safe.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, if he loses in the first round, maybe. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that possibility. But otherwise, I would doubt that. Sorry about that. I think that alarm says it's all the time we have for today. Yeah, remember, without the buzz, folks, it's just hockey. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll be back again on Monday.